been burned, I've been broken, still I rise, yeah, the story's been spoken. Every scar just shows what I came through. I'm stronger now, and I shine brand new. The climb was steep, but I held on tight. Step by step, I found my light. Shots fired, but I keep moving, turn the pace, steady grooving. From the ashes, I'm reaching high, altitude living, I'm touching the sky. Shots fired, but I keep moving, turn the pace, steady grooving. From the ashes, I'm reaching high, altitude living, I'm touching the sky. Not my trauma, not my change.
Welcome back to The Rise from Ashes to Altitude, a living, breathing book tour based off my award-winning book, Shots Fired, A Heroine's Memoir. I'm your host, Tracy Lance, and through intimate conversations, behind-the-scenes storytelling, and powerful guest voices, we explore what it really means to rise from trauma, reclaim resilience, and turn wounds into wisdom. Each episode is a tour stop into a different part of the journey, taking us somewhere new, geographically, emotionally, and spiritually, from fire and bullets to forgiveness and elevation. Our mission is to create a space where vulnerability is honored, healing is possible, and every listener is reminded your story carries strength, your voice carries truth, and your scars are no longer wounds. They're beauty marks of survival that make you bulletproof. Today, we continue our journey by exploring another powerful story. Gaylon's rise from domestic violence and abuse and her work as a women's rights activist. This is a theme that runs deep through my memoir because true freedom begins when we reclaim our power. For this stop on the journey, we're grounded at Portland Headlight on the Maine coast in Cape Elizabeth, a lighthouse that has stood firm through centuries of shifting winds and violent storms. Today, we meet Dr. Gaylon A at the lighthouse, a symbol of hope and strength, to hear how she found her light amidst the storm. Gaylon is a social justice advocate and a professor of justice studies at Northeastern Illinois University. She began her advocacy fighting for affordable housing and has since moved across multiple sectors, carrying the torch of justice wherever it's needed most. She is a mother, a nana, a marathoner, and an abortion doula. She's been profiled in national publications, ran for public office during 2017 and 2018 election cycles, and in her downtime, you'll find her treasure hunting as an avid thrifter and reseller. Hi, Gaylon. Welcome to The Rise. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Hey, Tracy. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
I'm super excited to be here.
So, Gaylon, before the titles, before the accolades, before the classrooms and the platforms, there was a woman clawing her way out of poverty and domestic violence. Can you talk about that person, who you were before all of that?
I don't even know where to begin. So like, I've told you before, everything kind of comes from childhood.
Yes.
Different things like your life is recording all through childhood. And so some of those things that have happened in childhood kind of carried over into my adult life. And I think that, we grew up in poverty and we really experienced it after my father was killed in 1979.
Wow.
Right before Christmas, before I graduated from 8th grade. So we were really thrown into poverty. I can remember, sleeping at my aunt's house in the basement on the floor because we didn't have a place to live.
Wow.
So that's where I really began to really understand that we had some stuff going on.
Right. So it was you have siblings?
Yeah. I have a sister that is a year and a half younger than me. And then I have a brother who, when was Jason born? in 77. And then I have a baby brother who was born in 84 when I was a senior in high school.
So it was your mom and just the four of you.
Yep.
And not to just, you had to deal with the death of your dad and being displaced.
Yeah, all that.
All of that at one time.
Yeah, all of that.
Yeah.
And, my mom had a very challenging relationship with her mother. So she rarely wanted to go back there.
Yeah.
And so we moved around to different places. Like I remember staying with other aunts. And, when she finally left the South Side, because she moved us from 79th and Woods, where, all down 79th Street is our family lived, up to right behind Wrigley Field. Then it was, okay, we're away from that. And I recognize now that she was going through post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
Then I didn't understand what. It was just like a lot of transition all the time. But we were there and she couldn't afford to really be there.
Right.
And so I remember her going to work one day and, telling me and my sister that we had to stay home. And she went to work and we were evicted. Like the sheriff came and put us out. So she wanted us to be there so our stuff would not be by itself.
I see, yes.
But never said that to us. And I don't know how you say that to a kid, but still it was, I carried a lot of resentment.
Yeah.
Because she really put me in a parent role. I parented my mother, like, as long as I can remember.
Oh, you had to flip the script. And I get that, because when we were evicted, Mom didn't tell us anything. We came home from school, and walking down the street, our stuff was just on the curb. So I get that, like, how we don't communicate with the kids and let them know what's going on, at least so you won't be so traumatized. So what was that like? What was that like, having to flip the script and become mom to your mother?
I resent it, and I still resent it to this very day, because I still parent my mother.
Yeah.
And so that is one of the things that I go through therapy about.
Yeah.
Because she treats me more like her sister, and she acts like my child.
Yeah. And what's that dynamic like for your siblings? Do they feel the same?
My sister, who is a year and a half younger than me, is estranged from the whole family. So she doesn't even live here in Illinois. I think she's in Washington State.
Wow.
Yeah, she doesn't speak to us. I haven't spoken to my sister in years. So we don't even know how she's doing or anything. And my middle brother is the middle child, and he is a handful. Mm-hmm. And my baby brother is such a sweetheart. Just an adorable, hustler, and, but has a really sweetheart, and has been with his, wife for almost 20 years now. So he's a good person. But my middle brother is really, really lost. Yeah. And that comes from, so when my mom got pregnant with me, my mom met my father when she was 9 and he was 12. So they came through all their schooling together.
Right.
And even though they didn't go to the same high school, they still dated. I don't know exactly when she got pregnant with me. I don't know if it was on her prom or right after that. But the bottom line is he didn't marry her.
Okay.
He went off and he married someone else.
Wow.
And so during that time, which was in the 60s, it was very shameful.
Yeah.
And so she did a rebound and got married to my sister's father.
Okay.
Because she wanted to get out of her mother's house.
Yep.
And so she married this man who was abusive. And so she was pregnant with my sister. He was abusive to her. She ended up leaving, going back to my grandparents' house. So by that time, she had me and my sister.
Yeah.
Then my father comes back into the picture in the late 70s. He's divorcing his wife. He's moved back from California back here. And they get back together. And they have my middle brother.
Wow.
Yeah. And then he was killed 2 years later.
So you pretty much grew up with your mom.
Yeah.
in you and your sister.
Yeah. And so that's a really interesting dynamic, and I never really thought about it like that, but she was a completely different parent to me and my sister than she is to my brothers. My brothers are like Jesus on the mountaintop.
Okay.
And we were like, get out there and make way, type thing. So
your brothers and your mom are close, and then your sisters and your mom, like you said, y'all turned into her caregiver.
My sister didn't.
Yeah. So at what point did your sister move away from the family?
Honestly, I don't remember. She had a lot of mental health issues. My mom married this man that she really didn't know anything about. She ended up finding out from his family that he had been in a mental institution, and he ended up walking out into Lake Michigan and killing himself, like drowning himself.
Gaylon, what?
So my sister's got some type of mental disorder. I don't know if it's schizophrenia. I don't know what it is, right? Yeah. She wasn't around us a lot. It was a time that my mom took her children because they went through DCFS, and she took her children. She was raising her children, and then some kind of way she got them back, and she moved out to Washington State. It's just a whole mess, and yeah, they don't get along. My mom and her do not get along whatsoever.
That sounds like a whole different show.
Yeah.
You've heard this thing that's going on called no contact now. Where
I have.
People are deciding to divorce their family and leave without any contact. So I want to talk about that. I might have you back because I really want to talk about that because I did not know that was going on in your life.
And that's always been a thing. It's just we put a term around it now.
Exactly. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Because sometimes you emancipate or whatever you want to call it. But that's becoming more and more popular now than ever before. So that's something that I want to explore a little bit. At what point did you move away from the family and start creating your own family?
So, when I met my ex-husband, my son was 6 months old, and I met him at O'Hare. And I went out to O'Hare to look for a job. Because I wanted to get off of food stamps and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And so I met him. He was working out there. He worked for the city, and we ended up getting together. And I was in my own apartment at the time, so he ended up moving in, and we ended up getting married. And then Zoe came along, and But we kind of, when I was all into my marriage, of what I was thinking a marriage was supposed to be, because I was only looking at it from my grandparents' view.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't have anything else to look at it. So that's what I was looking at. And at that time, I was just like kind of disconnected from everything else that was going on in the family.
Yeah. How old were you at the time?
My early 20s.
Yeah.
Because I had my son 21, I think. Yeah.
Yep.
And I met him 6 months later.
Yeah. And then that's Zoe's dad.
That's Zoe's dad.
And then you already had a child coming into that relationship. You only have the two children, just Zoe and what's your son's name?
Nicholas.
So Zoe and Nicholas. And so you mentioned your mom being in an abusive relationship. At what point did that start entering into your dynamic?
So, I try to go back and think about it, because I wanted to make sure that I was a really involved parent, because my mother wasn't. My mother was not involved with my high school experience or anything. Yeah. I was just like out there.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to make sure that I was really involved, like taking them. Zoe was a Girl Scout. I was a Girl Scout troop leader. Nicholas was playing hockey. I had them in everything. I was going to LSC. I was on LSC, I was PTA, doing everything. And then my ex-husband was working nights, so we weren't sleeping together.
Okay.
So I think that is around the time where it started to be kind of a separation and a break of us, of the intimacy between us.
Right.
And I was really focused on my kids. And I end up noticing that he started having different behaviors.
Yep.
Buying stuff, coming in, take a shower, put on cologne, leave right back out.
Yep.
He brought a car while I was there, just all kind of crazy stuff. And I started getting into it with him.
Yeah.
Like I started, screening his calls. Like I cracked the code to his cell phone. Back in the day, that was hard to do.
Exactly.
I don't know how I did it.
I
don't know how I did it, but I cracked the code. I could hear all her voicemails to him. That was a time when you could get your printout of your numbers from Illinois Bell.
Yes.
You could call them and say, "Could you send me a printout of last month?"
Yes.
And then I saw
it's the home phone, not the cell phone.
Right.
Ameritech in Illinois.
Right.
Yes.
I saw all her numbers. I was calling her and going at it, and we were getting into it. And then one day he just slugged the shit out of me.
Cause you were questioning him, you were noticing things were all
and I was he was getting ready to go or whatever, and so then I started taking his clothes out the closet, like I'm gonna throw your clothes out the window, all kind of stuff, and he just slugged me.
So how long after the relationship did this start?
I'm at 89. We got married in 91. Zoe was born in 93. Probably 96. 95 it started probably shifting.
Yeah.
In 96.
So that was a pretty decent time for you all to be married, and then all of a sudden the abuse started. And then how did it escalate from there, or was it at that point you're like, nope, this is it?
That was it. I had so after he jumped on me in our bedroom, he took the kids and he left. And I called my best friend, and she came and got me, her and her sister. And when they saw me and the look of their face, I knew that it was bad, but I didn't see myself.
Right.
So they took me to Grant Hospital to the emergency room. The nurses looked at me and they ran and got the police. And so when I finally saw myself,
let me get you some tissue.
I had 2 black eyes, and my whole head was swollen and big, and I had a hairline fracture, and it was bad. And so that was it. I mean, I wasn't going back. I mean, I went through all the emotions of my marriage and why did it end, and I want my marriage back. I went through those emotions,
right?
But we never got back together.
So was he drinking? Was there drugs involved?
No. But his family, his mother and father had domestic violence.
Okay.
So he grew up with that.
Yep.
And we had actually talked about that. We had talked about what we were not going to do.
Right.
And he did it.
Yeah. So when you saw your image in the mirror after that, what went through your head? What's the emotions coming from right now? Are you seeing that image of yourself in your mind and thinking back to how serious it was?
Yeah. The emotions is that it was a very painful, hurtful experience.
Yeah.
That really colored all my relationships after that.
Yes.
And even though I've had relationships and I've had healthy relationships and stuff, I'm not married anymore. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it colored that, and it was an awful experience. Yeah. I was embarrassed.
Yep.
In the building that I did a lot of advocacy in. That's why I started my organizing in my building.
So you were doing that then, even when you were married.
Yeah.
And so the neighbors knew you,
everybody, management, everybody knew me. I was involved with HUD. I got an award. I mean, I was doing stuff.
Yes.
I was always busy.
Yes.
And I was embarrassed after that. And so, the management company was very understanding and very supportive, and they came and they changed my locks. They didn't make me move.
Yeah.
And I was struggling to pay my bills.
Yeah.
At that time, I had to file bankruptcy because I had credit cards and all this kind of stuff, but I was tied to him.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was, me and my kids was on a struggle.
So how did that affect them? Did they know that even happened? Well, I guess they had to see your face. That you had to explain to them what had been going on. And then I want to know, like, how did you explain to them what was going on?
I don't think I explained to them what was going on. They knew that me and got into it and got into a fight. I don't remember how I told them that he was not coming back.
Yeah.
But they knew that he wasn't. I put them in therapy, though.
Yeah, I was getting ready to ask, how did that change who you became as a mom? Because you had to think, this is the same thing that happened to my mom. Because you witnessed that when it happened to your mom.
No, I was a little baby. I was like maybe 2 or something. I don't remember that.
Yeah.
She just talks about it all the time.
Yeah.
You
So
know?
then did you ever at any point think, this happened to my mom, this is no way it's going to happen to me?
I didn't think so. I didn't think nothing like that would happen to me. I mean, I never saw my grandparents fight. I didn't see my mother and my father fight. I mean, they got into it. I heard arguments, but I didn't see them fight. You know,
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what I expected.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, I probably shouldn't have gotten married.
Yeah.
You know, I was trying to take care of my son.
Yeah.
You know, I was in deep poverty. And I was like, I need to be like my grandparents.
Right.
You know, they've got a house, they're married. And so that's what I was trying to be like.
Yeah, you saw somebody in your life who you could aspire to. And coming from poverty as a little girl growing up, you know, once you become a mom, I don't want this to be my story.
Exactly.
And I completely feel that, because when I decided to divorce my ex-husband, it's like, okay, how am I going to do this by myself with 3 kids in tow? I have no idea how to navigate life, because I got married early and shouldn't have. And I know that I shouldn't have. It was just for the family dynamic. But then to start from the bottom and have to work your way back up, how did you start rebuilding again?
Well, first and foremost, I know I needed to get some help. And I was taking Zoe to preschool at the YMCA every single day, and I had my glasses on.
Yeah.
I had black eyes.
Yeah.
And so I had my glasses on, but you could see, because even when I had the glasses on, I could see that I had black eyes. Like it was around here and stuff. And I would go in there and the teachers would just look, but they would never say anything. And I was thinking in my head, because remember, I was an activist and I had been on PTA, LSC, and HUD meetings and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, very active.
And I'm thinking to myself, why aren't they asking me if I need some help?
Right. Because you know how you see the sign behind the bathroom door, like if you're in any... And people don't want to speak up. People don't want to say.
Right.
But really, when you see something, say something. At least, are you okay? Because
Right.
it could have been nothing. But then it could have been something.
Right. And so one day when I took her in and dropped her off, I said, I need some help. I just went to the teacher. I said, I need some help.
You said that, Gaylon?
Yeah. I said, I want to get therapy. I need some help.
Yeah.
And then they started connecting me with Family Institute, which had an office in the Y at the time, but they're based in Evanston. But yeah, I had to ask them.
So you mentioned in your intake that in the world, in the word impossible are the words I'm possible. Is it at that point where you just opened up and said, I need help, where you realize like I'm possible and you're going to choose yourself and get the help you needed?
No, I don't think I was thinking that. I think that kind of narrative comes later as I'm developing into a fully evolved person. But I knew that I needed some therapy and my kids needed therapy.
Yes.
And I had always said, I want to raise healthy kids.
Yes.
And so that's why I had them in everything.
Yeah.
That's why, I was always up at the school picking up the report cards. I was no one can ever say I was on their school trips. No one can ever say that I wasn't involved with my
Right.
kids.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have that. And I
Yeah.
really wanted that.
Yeah.
You know, so.
So is that the thing that kept you going during this whole time? Was it the motive, you were inspired by the kids and wanting to be that active, involved parent with them?
Yeah, that kept me going, and just, you know, I had to take care of them.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to be back on public aid.
Right. And you had to go to work with a black eye with the big glasses on.
I didn't go to work. And so what ended up happening, that's when I was working at Metropolitan Family Services. And
So
I was,
you were working for Family Services at the time?
yeah.
Okay. And didn't go to work?
Yeah, I was I was actually in the crisis department. No, in the SAS department. Screening, assessment, and support services. I was intake. And I called in. I was like, my husband beat me up and I can't come in.
So you were in the intake person. So you were taking cases.
For children.
Oh, it was just for children.
Uh-huh.
So you didn't go to work. You said, I need to get myself together. And but you still worked though. You didn't quit or anything like that.
No, I didn't quit. I ended up going back, but I remember coworkers. I think I had maybe 2 weeks of vacation or something like that, and some coworkers end up giving me some of their vacation.
Oh wow.
So I think I was like off of work like 3 or 3.5 weeks.
Yeah.
I still got paid during that time, but I remember when one of the social workers and the case managers came to bring me some stuff. And when I opened up the door, they both gasped because, you know, as your black eyes heal, they get like darker and it looks really crazy. And they was just like in shock. But, you know, they came and, you know, they was there and they supported me. And then, you know, after I healed, I went back to work. I had to.
Yeah. Yeah. So who is your community? Who did you reach out for help and say, look, I need help. I need your support. Who were those people for you?
Do you remember when I ran, I think it was my last Chicago marathon, when I was saying miles for Moochie?
I do think I remember that.
So it was Moochie and her sister Pippi.
Moochie is who?
She's a real good friend. They were like my sisters.
Okay.
Her son, Moochie's son, and my son are best friends. They've been best friends since kindergarten. They are a day apart.
Yeah.
And so they've been best friends. So we just kind of incorporate ourselves into each other's lives. And so though Moochie and her sister Pippi are the ones that came and got me and took me to the emergency room. I can't even remember why I didn't call my mother. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I do remember my mom coming and taking the kids to school.
Yeah.
At certain points.
Yeah.
So, but it was them, and then obviously my best friend Angie that lives around here. Yeah, I don't think my grandparents was come. I don't think I let them see me. I can't remember. I'm the first grandchild, so I
Yeah.
was very spoiled and just, you know.
And what's interesting is, even though you were embarrassed, you were still able to say to people, I need help. You were still able to reach out to people and say, this is what I need from you, without that embarrassment holding you back and you going into hiding.
Right.
Which most people do. I don't want anybody to see me like this.
Right.
So it's good that you had a community. It doesn't matter who it was, but the key is you reached out for help.
Yeah.
And you asked for help when, again, at a time where, we're too prideful. I'm not asking anybody for anything.
Right.
I can do it myself.
Right.
Listening to you, it reminds me of this book that I'm currently reading by Iyanla Vanzant called Spiritual Hygiene. She talks about the difference between a sacred no and a holy yes. Have you've read?
I've read stuff
okay.
by her, but I haven't read that.
Yes, this just was released December 30th.
Okay.
She described the sacred no as one that's protected, it's governed and guided by boundaries, it's firm, it's from the inside out. And then a holy yes, she calls it coming from the heart. And it's not with obligation, no guilt, no performance, but it's for self-honor. So I'm hearing you, and I'm wondering, at what point did you say no and have that whole internal no going on? Like, no, I'm not going to tolerate this. Because it's interesting that you left the marriage after just that one first incident. There are many women who stay in the relationship and they don't care. They try to make it work. You love, right?
As a husband, yes.
So at what point you were absolute certain that I am not going back? No to him, and I'm going to choose me.
When I think back to it, it really was, I was cute and I was like, and I know I'm all that.
I am not tolerating this.
You're not going to keep jumping up on me.
So you had confidence back then, and you were determined, like, no, I'm too fine. That's good though, because no matter what it is,
And I had, and here's the other thing. It's like, I was empowered. Remember, I was an activist. I was sitting in meetings. I had, worked with HUD and our management company to secure us $1 million rehab for our building. Like, I was doing stuff.
Yes.
So I was just like,
you gonna hit me?
what?
So it wasn't hard for you to stand in your no. You meant what you said. You said what you meant, and you were out of there.
But I did go through emotions, right?
Well, yeah.
During that time, I was like, man, my marriage. I was going through those emotions, but after a while, I was on to the next.
But Gaylon, I went through the same thing. I was choked out by my ex, but I still, like, the love that I had for him, it didn't want me to stay away. But it was at that point that was my final straw. But prior to that, and I think that was the first time, maybe the second time that it became physical. But leading up to that, it was always, let's get back together, let's work this out, let's see if we can make this marriage work. It was none of that for you. That's so impressive to me.
And I think also what helped solidify that was because he was a very selfish man.
Because there were other things going on. It was a culmination of things.
Right. He was very, very selfish. And I remember, like, I was having a hard time paying my rent. And I did get a 5-day notice. And I was trying to figure out how to come up with my rent. And I told him. And he was like, well, bring me the paperwork that they gave you. And so I put the kids in the car. We drove out to O'Hare. I let him see the paperwork. He just looked at the paperwork. He's like, yeah, this is eviction notice. And he didn't help me. And so it was around that time where I was like, this man is really, really selfish. Like, I don't want to be with somebody like that.
Yeah. Have you gone down the path of forgiveness?
Yeah, I forgave him. My grandson is 16. So my grandson was about 1. He apologized.
He did apologize?
Uh-huh. He apologized. Because we had went over to see the baby. Not together, but we met and we went over to see the baby. And he apologized. And I was like, yeah, I've been forgave you, dude.
Yeah.
I done gone through therapy and everything. I'm fine.
Yeah. I think the thing that probably did it was you immediately went into therapy. Right after that, you and the kids immediately went into therapy. Mm-hmm. That's something that I didn't do either. Back then, too, therapy was unheard of. We didn't have money for therapy. Like, what? So it's amazing how after all of those years, he finally apologized. Did you ever have to go through the process of forgiving yourself?
I didn't do nothing, so I didn't go through that mental thing.
When I say that because I couldn't believe that I was married to this type of person, right? Mm-hmm. So I went through the process of not even trusting myself in the decisions that I made, who I invited into my life around my children. Mm-hmm. And I had a covenant with this man. So I went through the process. I didn't trust myself, and I was very hard on myself then. Like, how could you put yourself in that situation? So that I had to go through a process of forgiveness because of that, of myself.
Yeah.
So that never yeah, I didn't do anything wrong. I did everything I could to try to save the marriage and keep the family together. But then when it was time to decide, look, I'm giving up. I've gone through this process and I've taken all that I could take. It's done. That was hard for me to cross over from feeling like I need to save my marriage for the family, for the kids, or I need to save myself and love me more than I love anything else that he could offer me. You didn't go through that process.
I didn't. And I think part of it was because I met when I was like 21, and remember I was like on food stamps.
Yeah.
And had a minimum wage job at O'Hare.
Yeah.
And so here comes this man that's got a full-time city job with benefits.
Yes.
And I loved him for that. I
Yeah.
wasn't in love with him.
Because he could provide for you.
Right. And
That was stability. Yeah.
Right. And so I think that the break probably was easier for me to be like, yeah, no.
Right.
Type thing, because, and I know what love feels like, because I done been in it.
Yes.
Right. And
Yeah.
been like, I love you so much,
Yes.
but it wasn't that feeling for him.
Yes.
But I loved him as my husband.
Right. As the provider, as the father of your children.
So I think that's why it was maybe easier for me to be like, you ain't all that.
Yeah, exactly. Tell me about being an abortion doula. What even is that?
So you know what a doula is?
Yes.
A doula is a woman that is actually, a birth doula is a woman that actually goes in and supports a pregnant person going through the labor process,
Yes.
right? And so an abortion doula is a person that goes in and supports a person going through the abortion process. And I think that was one of my life's that's one of my most changing moments in my life, is to actually be in the room with a woman holding her hand.
Oh, so you're in there. They allow you to be in there?
Yeah. And holding her hand as she's having an abortion and she's looking in my eyes. When I tell you how powerful it is, I can't even describe it. I feel like I really got to write a book about that. But, I went through the training. I'm actually going through retraining at the end of this month.
Recertified.
And freshen up. But I became an abortion doula because I was the executive director at the abortion fund.
Yes.
And I wanted to, when you're an executive director, when you're in leadership, you're really not doing on the ground work. You are writing grants, you're in meetings. You're not really connected to the work anymore like you were before. And I wanted to do something else outside of that connected me back into this reproductive justice framework that I believed in. And so when I saw that the training was coming around, I did the training, and we were certified and everything, and we were placed at a hospital. I can't really say which hospital, but we were placed at a hospital, and I would go in there on a weekly basis and be in a room, and I've seen everything.
So is it only abortions, or is it for people who lose babies, or is it just strictly abortions?
I was an abortion doula.
Wow. Gaylon, that's what I love about you. You got to have feet on the ground. You could be on the board, you could be in the back office, you could be in the corporate arena, but you got to get out there, like you go across country in poverty-stricken areas, and you go in the room with a person who is having an abortion. You have to be on the ground.
And my mom was like, you involved in so much. Like, what is you not involved in? And I'm like, Mom, I can rest when I'm dead. Like, if God wanted us to be still, we would have been trees. Like, I mean, we got to do stuff. Like, it's so much stuff out here in the world to do. I'm not even going to be able to accomplish everything that I'm interested in doing. But I see something, I see a need, and I'm like, yeah, I want to walk the talk that I'm talking, right?
Yes.
And so if I say that I truly believe in full autonomy, and you should be able, I've had 3 abortions. Yeah. So, like, if I say I believe in it, then why would I have an issue doing that work?
Yes.
And I don't.
And it's been your experience, and what better person to speak to that experience to a person who's going through it than a person who's been through it.
And trust me, I mean, some of the women didn't say anything but just looked at me. Some of them just cried while they was looking at me.
Yeah.
And all I could do was just, pat their head, hold their hand.
You don't have any discussion. You give them exactly what they need.
Whatever they need. Some women have talked to me, One woman was telling me how, she had just came to this country, so she was a Muslim woman. Every single woman in this world, no matter what, religion, background, everything, have had abortions. Because sometimes if you're not clued into that, you're like, oh, Amish women don't have abortions. You can be like that because you don't see it. But it's like, I done seen it all.
Yes.
I done seen people actually say in there they don't believe in abortion, but they can't.
I have to have.
I've seen it. I've been in abortion with a autistic young girl.
Wow.
Who scratched my arm up and fought me every step of the way as somebody else held her other side and I held her side.
Wow.
It's been a crazy ride I've been on.
So you are now Dr. Gaylon Alcaraz. What point did you start heading down that road of education? I need to start getting my education and have a bright future for myself. And you started from what point did you start now that got you now to be titled Dr. Gaylon Alcaraz?
So I became involved with an organization out on the South Side, and I ended up sitting on their board. And all the people that were on the board were Black women that already had their degrees. It was doctors, it was lawyers, accountants. I was sitting amongst all these accomplished women, and I was feeling very insecure.
Yeah.
I didn't have my degree. I didn't have, I just graduated from high school. And so I'm sitting amongst these people on a board. And that's what clicked.
Yeah.
I felt really insignificant.
You were still in your 20s?
Was I in my 20s then? I think I was in my early 30s at that point. Yeah, I think I was in my early 30s.
So you decided as a single mom to go back to school and start getting your education.
Yep.
And face the challenges of the rigors of getting your education.
Yeah, and what's interesting is, so I was working for Girl Scouts, and one of the women that was at Girl Scouts, and she ended up becoming a doctor too, but she was working part-time, I was working part-time. We really had a parallel situation. Mm-hmm. And we had been talking, and I was telling her about all the stuff I had been going through, and I needed to file bankruptcy. I didn't have money. And she was like, you could do that for yourself for free. She says, I filed bankruptcy on my own. So she walked me through the process of how to file bankruptcy. And then she started school, and I was like, I'm going to start school too. And so it actually was us both like doing this parallel thing. And so end up doing that. And at the same time, I'm sitting on this board, right? One of my mentors asked me, was I looking, because I was working part-time, was I looking for a job? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, okay, I'm on the transition team for this non-for-profit. And they're looking for, their executive director. And I said, I've never been an executive director. Like, I don't know anything about, I don't know anything about that. And she's like, you sit on a board, you read budgets, you're doing programming, you're volunteer coordinator, you're doing stuff, you know how to do that. So my mentor really encouraged me. And so I applied.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing, that's when I became the executive director of the Chicago Abortion Fund.
Yeah.
And the funny thing was, I had a dream. Now, when they're going through the whole search process, you don't know what's happening, right? You just have been interviewed.
Yeah.
You don't know what's happening.
Right.
And I had a dream that it was against me and a white woman. That was my dream. And I ended up telling my mentor, I said, I had a dream that it was just between me and a white woman at the end. And she looked at me and she goes, it is. And she's a lawyer, but they want you.
Wow. What was that thing that they wanted? Personality?
I don't know. I mean, they definitely wanted to have a woman of color because the majority of the women that were calling the fund were Black women, marginalized women in Chicago. So they definitely wanted, a woman of color.
And Gaylon, you had already been...
Yeah, but when you're not used to doing that, right? And so it's like...
Yeah.
What? So that happened while I was getting into school. So I was on this track of learning how to be an executive director in the pro-choice movement and being in school. And what I said to myself was, okay, I got this executive director job. So I'm going to have the experience at the next job I go to. But I got to have my education.
Yes.
Gaylon, you got to plow through and get it. And so that's what ended up forcing me to give me the energy to do my BA and my MA in 5.5 years.
Wow.
While I was an executive director.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's how that kind of happened.
So then your BA and MA is not a PhD. Then how did the PhD come about?
Oh, that's so interesting. That's so interesting. So, I knew somebody before I got to National Louis is where I got my doctorate in.
Yeah.
I went to Roosevelt University for a year. How I got there is a woman who used to be on the board with Planned Parenthood. I ran into her at a Planned Parenthood event, and she was like, "Are you looking to go back to school, get your PhD?" I said, "Well, I never thought about it." And she says, I'm involved with the program at Roosevelt. I can get you through this program. You don't have to pay nothing.
What?
And I was like, really? And she was like, yes. You have all the grant, everything will be covered. So I was like, okay. And so I thought about it, and I was like, well, if it's free, I might as well do it. And so I registered, and I started going through the program, right? And then Roosevelt kept sending me bills. And so then I started questioning it. Like, I'm not supposed to have a bill.
Right.
She had sent me stuff via email. So I had stuff in writing.
Proof. Yeah.
And pretty much, I don't know if she ended up leaving there or if she was still there and just not communicating with me. I can't remember the entire story. But the bottom line is, there was no grants. And she never had no authority. And I had this large bill from Roosevelt, and I was like, I'm not paying that. I went all the way up to the dean. I took all my emails, and I was like, no, I was told this. And so then they just released all that, and I chalked that up. And so I was like, I'm over this, whole process. But in the midst of that, two of my friends or, my comrades, activists, people that I know, were in the program, the community psychology program at National Louis. They were probably like 2 years in. And they were enjoying their program. And I was talking to them about it. So that's how I ended up getting to National Louis.
Yeah.
When I was ready. And the first time I put in an application with all my essay and everything, I was rejected. I was rejected.
But you got back up. You did it again.
But one of the professors there said, I'll work with you on your next essay.
Yes.
And so that's how I ended up getting in.
Awesome. And now you are a professor yourself or a professor of justice studies at Northeastern Illinois University. Yeah. Okay, so tell us what you teach. Is this the name of the class?
Oh my God, I teach 5 different classes.
Oh, what?
I teach so many. So I teach Intro to Social Justice.
Okay.
I don't teach them all at the same time.
Right.
So some is given at certain semesters or whatever. But I teach an Intro to Social Justice. I teach Advocating for Social Justice in Illinois.
Yeah.
I teach Practicum of Justice Studies, which I'm getting all the students ready to get their internships and finding internships. Environmental social justice, and hunger and homelessness. Hunger and homelessness is my favorite, and I've been teaching that the longest, and I've been there 8 years.
So I've never heard you say, what made you go into being an advocate and, fighting for justice and this whole programming, this advocacy, I need to fight for human rights. What triggered that?
I think it just really comes from what I did not have growing up and just a lack of it. And I would just see stuff and just do stuff.
Yeah.
I would see people. I remember one time I had my mom in the car and I was like, I got to go take these coats and deliver these coats. She's like, where are we taking these coats to? And I went up under the Kennedy Expressway and was giving them to people. And she was like, what is you doing?
Yeah.
But it's like I see stuff and I just like, I don't like the way it looks. I don't like the way it looks. And we've got so much, this world's got so many resources and we could take care of everybody if we wanted to. And like Dr. King says, we have the resources, but do we have the will?
Yes, because you're still like that today. I've known you. I don't know. I started running in 2005. I don't know at what point we met.
2012.
But at that point, Gaylon, you came in giving back. We did the whole tent city, going to feed the homeless, and we did all of those things. You had us on the CTA. You had us on the CTA train rides on the L. Just doing runs and races around those communities and those areas where we could see, visually see the poverty that's going on. And you were one of the ones who opened our eyes to, what's going on around us and implanting in us. We can help. We can give back. It only takes one of us. And then, one of us ain't as good as all of us. So let's gather a whole coalition and start giving back. So you're still like that. It seems like you just been like that since you were a little girl.
Oh, well, when I was a little girl, it was something different. I was terrorizing people, but
but at some point you gave all of that terrorism up and decided
I channeled I channeled the energy another way.
Yes. So your experiences obviously shaped who you became as a mother, and I know you said that you wanted to raise healthy children and children who you've put into therapy. How are they now? How are they as adults now?
I feel like they're okay, but your children don't tell you everything that's going on, and so my daughter just got married, and she appears to be doing okay.
Yep.
And my son is doing okay.
Yeah.
He's doing okay. He's 37, I think. And,
wow.
He's still thriving, up on the north side in Lincoln Park and doing his thing and working. And my children didn't end up in jail on drugs, in gangs.
Amazing.
They have their health. And for that, I'm grateful.
Yes. And Zoe is beautiful, if I'm gonna say so myself.
Thank you.
I've never seen your son, but Zoe is beautiful.
Wait till you see my son.
Model like she literally like she could be a model. So how has your understanding of strength, power, and freedom evolved since leaving the abusive marriage?
I think that obviously the more experiences you have, and you look at things in a different way, right? And so I truly believe that you can change your life. Now, anybody can.
Yeah.
But there also has to be some resources and there has to be some other things around for a lot of people to take that step and to become successful.
Yes.
Just because somebody says I'm strong doesn't mean that they can overcome what they're dealing with.
That's right.
They have to have some other things. And so
it takes a village.
It does. It does take a village, but it also takes something inside of you. It takes something inside of you to trigger that, right? For whoever it may, I don't know. For different people, it's a different thing, right?
Yeah.
But it takes something.
Yeah.
And sometimes people have it and sometimes people don't,
right.
Even when they're strong.
Yeah.
And even when there's resources, because you see a lot of people, they, end up don't do what they're supposed to do and they have resources.
Yeah, don't want to initiate. Some people want everything to be handed to them. They don't want to read. They don't want to, you could give them the whole resource book and they'll still say, nobody will help me.
And I'm going to dispute you on that and say that it's easy for us to say sometimes people just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
However, when you study psychology and you study ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and I worked in DCFS and working around children, like the things I went through, adverse childhood experiences, right? I was able to overcome it just because I had something in me, whatever it was, I don't know, but I was able to overcome it. But when you see somebody sleeping out on the street that's an alcoholic, they had some adverse childhood experience to put them there, right?
Yep.
And they might not necessarily be able to get over the hump because we don't know what their experience from childhood was to put them there.
So what do you do? Do you just...
You can continue.
You do it for them?
No, I wouldn't say do it for them. I think that, and I don't have the experience of going out and taking somebody off the street and pulling them in, right? I have more experience with dealing with young people and children.
Yeah.
But you can offer them the support, but a lot of people might be just too far gone.
Yeah.
For help.
Yeah, because you do hear those people who are homeless and they say, I'm happy with where I am. I don't want the help.
Yeah.
So this sounds like those experiences are what allowed you to see the world differently.
Yeah. That and also doing a lot of travel outside of countries.
Yes.
And
solo traveling. You do a lot of solo traveling.
I do that, but I also travel to a lot of places that have poverty.
Yeah.
And look and see. And, I want to understand for myself what the narrative that we're being taught over here.
Yeah.
So, like when I went to Nicaragua or when I went to Cuba, I want to see for myself.
Yes.
And it helps me understand, gives me a different lens.
Yeah.
So I can come back and teach my students about poverty in different ways.
Research, yes. So you use your voice today to guide, protect, advocate, support others. How do you do that? How do you do that? How does that come so easy for you?
It's not easy. I'll be tired.
It's not easy. You say you be tired.
I'll be tired.
So when you get home from work, like after going through your day to day and you're advocating, you're out there fighting for to the point where you ran for office. Can you talk about that? Why are you freezing up?
Oh, because that was really, really an experience.
Yes.
I was in a, ideal mindset of like, I'm this activist and I'm going to change the world.
Right.
I didn't see, I saw, something not being done in my community by an elected official. And I was like, yeah, I could do the job better than that.
Yeah.
I'm more educated. I've got more experience. I could do that.
What did you run for?
Cook County Board of Commissioners, the 4th District.
Yes, it was not as easy as you thought.
No, and I think the part that was not easy was because I didn't realize how much that whole world is like, it's like church in a way where it has to be passed down to you. People coming in off the street, why do you think you can get it? And so all these people that's in that world are looking at you like, who are you?
Yeah.
Why you think you could come in here and do this?
So is it like the political world where it's like you got to know people who know people who know people?
And you got to been doing it and you're connected to
That's
it.
Right.
And, and your family was in it and all that. And I came into it thinking, I've been an activist. I've been doing housing justice. I've been walking the streets. I've been feeding people. Yeah, I can go in there and do this. Yeah. And I could do it.
Yeah.
I can do it.
Yeah.
But fighting against the Democratic machine, which is still has a heavy stronghold, that's why a lot of these politicians are still in their positions, is because the Democratic machine is still alive.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot to break through that. And yes, that was really, really a challenging time. The person I ran against was in a fraternity. And so It was a lot of fraternity people around me that would not support me.
Yes.
A lot of sorority people around me that would not support me.
Yep.
And I'm not a soror, anything
Yes.
like that.
Yep.
And so that was another whole layer,
Yes.
right? It was a church, and then it was this other whole layer of frat and sorority, family. And so
Yes.
then it was that. And I just couldn't. I was trying to raise money, and just it was really weird. On top of the fact that during that time, and I think these things was probably happening because I probably wasn't supposed to be there, but then my grandfather passed away during me running, and my auto mechanic was killed in his garage, his auto garage, during my time I was running. So I was like, what is going on?
Right.
And I wasn't able to grieve and sit somewhere. I had to keep like knocking on doors and being on
you had to
panels.
push through no matter what.
Being on panels with these people.
Yes.
And it was a crowded race, and I was just like, no.
Yeah. Would you ever run again?
I try not to say never, but that's not something that because God has a sense of humor.
Yeah.
And so as soon as you say what you're going to do, then something else,
Yes.
So I try not to say never, but I'm not interested in that.
Yes. So you talked about the challenging part of running for office. What's been the most challenging parts of transforming your trauma into advocacy and the leadership role that you have now? What's been challenging as far as that goes?
So, outside of teaching part-time, I am a consultant. And so I do interim leadership. I go into organizations that are in transition, and I basically am a placeholder until they hire their permanent person. And so, the most challenging part is I'm a consultant, so I got to make sure I'm always humping and looking for contracts.
Where do you find the time to do all of this, Gaylon?
I don't know, but I'll be tired.
We heard that. You be tired, yes. So then what's your coping mechanism? You talk about self-love and your intake. How do you make sure that's your focus on a day-to-day basis with all that you have going on, all of the other people that you support and advocate? How do you make sure that you're taking care of you?
Yeah, so I've been getting up at 4:45. I've been trying to be back. When I was doing all the marathon running and stuff, we was like out there. We was always doing it. I was in my best shape of my life.
Yes.
And, and then the pandemic hit, and then I just have never been able to get back into that groove.
Yep.
But I said, okay, I'm going to reset. I've been listening to Tony Robbins, and I'm like, yeah, I just got to make some decisions.
Yeah.
And I just got to follow through my decisions. And if I don't succeed, it's okay because I still attempted to follow through. But if I never do anything,
Yes.
then,
Yeah.
that's on you because
Yeah.
you didn't never do anything. And so I've been getting up at 4:45 to work out.
Good. That's good. That's good, Gaylon. Keep going.
But
Keep doing it.
by 7 o'clock, I be climbing to that blanket. I just be like, I need you, blanket.
Yes. And then to help, because you are so powerful with your voice and your support. What do you say to women now who are in the storm, going through an abusive relationship? What do you say to them?
Interesting. That in my last semester, I had a student, and I think she had some domestic violence, something going on, because she came to class and her eyes looked weird.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I'm sorry, Professor, I'm just going through a lot of stuff, and I haven't slept or whatever. And so then what I did was I sent her an email, and I said, if you need any support, let me know. I can find you some support. If you're having a hard time, we have a hardship fund for students here. So I can send you the document. You can fill it out if you need some support. And so I don't know if it's necessarily me telling somebody something, but making sure that there are resources available and letting people know that I have the resources. Like, for example, when I post on Facebook, hey, I got all this stuff. Do you know anybody that needs Plan B, that needs menstrual pads, that needs condom, whatever? Let me know. 'Cause I want people to know that there's resources out here and you don't have to, kind of be without.
Yeah, and you probably have a whole directory of
I know a lot of
different
people.
resources available. We're going to talk after this because I need some resources. You mentioned the 4 agreements as a personal motto of yours that you abide by every day. Don't take things personally. Be impeccable with your word. Always do your best and don't make assumptions. Which one of these has been the hardest to live by, and which has anchored you the most?
Hardest to live by is don't take it personal, because we're human beings, and you always want to know, like, you know, I didn't do nothing to you. Why don't you like me? Like, why don't you?
Gaylon?
Yeah, I will be like that, because it's like, you being shady with me, and why? Like, I've never done anything to you. Like, so it's like, but if I was not taking it personal, then I would just recognize that's their own human condition that they're going through. It has nothing to do with me.
Yes.
And keep it moving, right?
Yeah.
But we're human beings, and we're human beings with emotion.
Yeah.
And so that has been a really hard one for me to follow. And kind of the one that's I can follow is don't make assumptions. And so I'm trying not to make assumptions about anything.
Yeah.
I try to ask and clarify. And I tell my students, communicate with me, over communicate with me. Yeah. I'm a communicator. And so I'd rather you talk to me. I said, we can disagree, but all conflict is not unhealthy, and it's not negative. It's okay to disagree, and we still be okay after that.
Yes.
And so I don't want to make assumptions about you. I want you to tell me exactly what you feeling, what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm
going to have to make note of that, because I always say, your opinions of me or how you respond to me is your problem. It's not my problem. But I easily okay, if this is how you want to be, then be that way. I'm not one to go, to try to figure it out. I used to be. I used to want to know, tell me why, but then I've learned that I don't have that kind of time.
And a lot of my stuff just comes from childhood. Yeah. I remember, being in grammar school and kids talking about me. Yeah. And calling me Puerto Rican. I'm not Puerto Rican, but calling me Puerto Rican, and I didn't have a lot of clothes, and maybe I was dirty. I don't remember. Yeah. And so I'm always like, why don't they like me? Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
It's one of those things that you carry on, and this is how it affects you in your in your adult life. Yeah. And then you wonder why. What do you think of me? What do you think? Yeah, I get that. So you said something else in your intake that struck me. Peace is priceless. And we had a previous guest, Carlette. She added that peace is going to cost you people, and it's expensive, but pay it at all costs. That's so powerful to me. Mm-hmm. How have you learned to define your circle and protect your peace after everything you've overcome?
I'm still learning. I'm still on that journey. I am at peace. I live in peace. Yes. And what I've recognized is, like, people that I was on a journey with, and I'm no longer on that journey with them. It's not personal. It's okay. It's okay. People just outgrow each other, and then you just kind of keep it pushing. Yes. And because I've been thinking like that, because I went through some grief around COVID and around coming out of COVID and different friendships ending and that kind of thing. And so I went through grief because there's a lot of people I was like running with, like, all the time and always around. But it is going to cost you people, because I could go out there and be around a whole bunch of people and be around a whole bunch of circles. It's tons of stuff to do out in the world, right? Yes. But I'm not choosing to do that. Yes. I want to live in peace, and I want to, and sometimes that means being alone, not lonely, but being alone.
That's right. Yes.
And so that is right on target. Like that other quote, it's going to cost you people, but it's priceless.
Pay it.
Yeah, pay it.
Because some people can't go where your peace lives, and you have to protect your peace, period.
Exactly.
So what's next for Dr. Gaylon, Dr. Professor Gaylon Alcaraz? What's next for you?
I don't know. I'm just on the journey. Yeah. I'm just on the journey, and I love I love teaching, and so still doing that and advising students. And I never talked about this part, but one of the things that kind of shied me away from kind of going back to school is because when I graduated from graduated from high school, I didn't really have any direction. Remember, my mom wasn't guiding me.
That's right.
And so I didn't know, okay, now you apply and go to college.
Yes.
I was just like hanging around. I went and got a job at McDonald's, I didn't know what I was doing. Until one day I was like, I think I want to go to Columbia. I think I want to be a writer. I want to be a news reporter. So I went to Columbia and tracing up behind some guy and flunking back and forth out of Columbia, right? But when I got serious and I was like, yeah, I'm going to go back and I'm going to finish this time, I went back, met with the advisor, who was a black woman, and she says, you're not going to graduate.
She told you that?
Yeah, she told me that. And I left out of Columbia, and I thought, like, I'm never going to graduate from college. And so that was like, I think some of the driver, as well as sitting around this table with all these black women that have been doing stuff. I was like, I need to get my degree.
Yes.
I need to get my degree. So I think, I like teaching. I like advising students. I love doing my consulting work, even though it's difficult and it's hard.
Yes.
I like doing it because I like going into different environments. Yeah. And looking at the problem and then getting down in the dirt and fixing it.
Yep. So I think that's what's next for you. Just continuing to evolve in those areas of advocacy, teaching, and all of the other plethora of things that you're doing. Any upcoming books?
I've published a book before, so I do have a book out. But I just, that was in maybe 2001. Yeah. Something like that.
It's still out there?
I have them, and so it's out there, but, so I've already had that, when I think about it, I was like, oh, I got so many things to write about, but then I'm like, I've been there, done that. Yeah. So I don't feel like doing that no more.
I'm an author. Now you're author, Dr. Professor Gaylon A. So, what's the one thing that people would be surprised to learn about you, Gaylon?
I was kidnapped off of a CTA train when I was a teenager and sexually assaulted.
Are you kidding me?
No.
So kidnapped?
Yeah, the guy took me off, and he had a friend with him. He took me off the train.
Gaylon, what?
Yeah. And it came back up. You know how stuff be coming back up, as you're growing and going, therapy or whatever you're doing, and this stuff kind of just regurgitates in your life. And one day I was sitting, I was like, I remember that happening to me. My mom doesn't even know. My kids don't even know.
That's so significant. Like, that's a big damn deal.
I blocked it out.
Is that what that trauma is? Trauma does. Sometimes it blocks things out to make you not really recall and think about it. Yeah. But what triggered that? What made you recently think about it? I don't know. Maybe it was,
being frustrated with my mother, of her not being, my mom really was not there for me. Yeah. I remember her being like going through her own stuff. Yeah. She would lock herself in her room and she would just be in her room. Like, she was really going through post-traumatic stress disorder all through my high school experience. And so I think that is like what I was probably thinking about. Like, my mom really has not been there for me in these critical times that I needed her to be there for me.
So Gaylon kidnapped, what, like for days?
No. He took me to a house. He did not penetrate me. I fought him, and then he dropped me off like on the street. And I remember like walking back to my house. I don't even know how far I was walking. I can't remember. Yeah. But I didn't have any money. And so I walked back home.
How old were you? You were a teenager?
Yeah, I was between 17 and 19.
And mom never knew this?
No.
So what do you say to people who are going to learn about this today?
There's nothing for me to say. I said it. I mean, I think that one of the things that happens is people, they look at you and they make
assumptions
about you.
Yeah.
They don't know anything about you. Sexual assault happens to women and girls more often than we think.
Yeah.
Not only by strangers, but by family. And so, people need to recognize that. And I remember some years ago putting on Facebook, the number one thing that men have to worry about is cancer. The number one thing that women have to worry about is being killed by their partner.
Yes.
And that's real.
Yeah, that is real.
Women are really unprotected.
Yeah.
And, it's the violence against women continues on. So,
So, Gaylon, you didn't go to the emergency room. You didn't go seek medical help. You didn't tell the authorities. You just did what?
Went home.
Went home, and did you cry? Did you feel the pain of that? Did you?
I was crying.
I
was crying while I was fighting this person off of me. Like I said, he didn't penetrate me. We were fighting.
Yeah.
And then I guess he just got tired, and then
yeah,
drove me back, and I don't even remember which street I was on. And then dropped me off, and I was like, I don't have no money to get home, and he just drove off.
Yeah. Wow, Gaylon, I thought you were going to say.
I know you thought I was going to say something funny, but I'm a serious person.
I thought you were going to say, people will be surprised to learn that I'm a solo traveler, or, I love my advocacy work or something like that. That threw me for a loop. I'm so sorry that happened to you.
Thank you.
I felt the need to apologize just so you could hear that somebody feels that for you. And I'm very sorry that happened. And I'm just so happy to have you as an advocate for other women and children and people out there who could learn from you. What would you tell somebody who's gone through that? Would you recommend that people just walk away and not say anything and go on with life? Or
I think people need to do what they feel is best for them.
Yeah.
You can't force people to make decisions that you would make.
Yeah, that's true.
People need to do what's best for them.
Yes.
And so if that is, going and telling somebody and sharing your story and being loud about it, that's it.
Yeah.
If it is taking it to your grave with you, that's it.
Yeah.
Well,
that's so powerful to me, and you were right. Do whatever you feel is necessary for you to do. Follow your own mind, heart, and do what you feel is necessary for your wellness, for your mental health, for whatever. Well, speaking of solo trips, the one most memorable thing about you, there are a lot of memorable things about you, but I'm getting a lump in my throat because I remember you telling me about going to New York, your most recent trip. And Gaylon, you were telling me that you were just walking down the streets of New York and you asked a homeless person a question. And then something came over you that I think is just so amazing. Can you? I want to hear that story. Can you tell me that story?
Yeah, you're getting ready to make me cry. Make me cry.
It made me so emotional.
So, I decided that I wanted to go to New York. New York is like my second home, so it's not a big deal. But I wanted to, like every birthday, I want to do something different. Yes. And so I decided, I want to go to New York this past birthday in October and just go to theater. Go, exercise in the park and then go to the theater, go see some shows on Broadway. And initially it almost started off kind of rocky, but then it was okay. And every time I go, I like to eat at a restaurant up in Harlem called Amy Ruth's, which is soul food.
Yeah.
Oh my God, their chicken and waffles are so good.
I gotta try it. The way you talk about it. Yes.
It's so good. So I got off the train, but not realizing that I hadn't been on that train before when I got off. And so I didn't recognize where I was when I came up off the train. And I saw a lot of people in line across the street. I don't know why they were in line. But, in some places, people stand in line to get on the bus.
Right.
okay, or get on a train or whatever. And so I thought that that's what they were doing. And so I went across the street and I asked this woman who looked like she was unhoused, did she know where Amy Roos was? And so she pointed down the street. And so then I said, oh, okay, thank you. And I went on back across the street and I started walking down the street. But as I'm walking past, I look to see where these people are going into this building. It's a community kitchen. I was like, that's a soup kitchen. Them people are hungry. And I immediately, like, my heart dropped because I'm asking this person that was standing in line who was hungry, where could I go to get soul food? So I said, I got to take her to dinner with me. Like, I can't do that. And so I went right back across the street and I said, excuse me, do you want to have dinner with me? And she was looking at me like I was crazy.
I would have been too.
She was looking at me like I was crazy. You know, she was a black trans woman. She looked really disheveled. You could tell that she was unhoused. And she had her bags and stuff. And you could see that she had food and stuff in the bag. And she said, what? And I said, it's my birthday weekend. And I would like you for you to have dinner with me. It's all on me. You can have whatever you want.
That is the most amazing story.
And so we start walking down the street to Amy Roos, and people was looking at us like we was like the odd couple.
What did they look at you like when you walked into the restaurant?
They was looking like...
And she's sitting at a table with you?
They was like, what is going on? And she, you know, I could tell that she had some mental health issues by the way she was talking, and stuff just was not making sense. But she cut all her food in half and took half of it with her, put it in her bag.
Nice.
She ate the rest of it. And when, you know, we were walking out, you know, we hugged. I asked her name again because I didn't remember. And she said, Angel.
Yeah, Angel.
And I was just like, okay, God, I hear you.
Yes. The reason why that moment stayed with me is because it showed an unexpected softness about you. That I don't think people often get to see that about Gaylon. Especially given you exude this strength and this energy and this authority. But I can't wait for our listeners to hear this story about you and just see what I see. You know, see that softness about you that nobody gets to see. There's no better ending to this episode than that.
You're always where you're supposed to be at any given moment, and it is okay.
Yes. You don't even realize how many people that this episode will help. Just hearing you is so powerful and motivational. I think you were the first guest that probably made me cry. But thank you for joining me on the mic today. It was such an honor having you on The Rise.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
I really appreciated this.
I appreciate you too. Gaylon's journey from abuse to activism mirrors reaching a vantage point, like standing at the top of a lighthouse. Lighthouses stand firm through shifting winds and violent storms. They don't stop the waves, they guide you through them. They represent clarity, strength, elevation, and safe passage, mirroring Gaylon's rise to empowerment and advocacy. That moment in New York, seeing someone honoring their humanity, that's lighthouse work. It's what happens when you've climbed high enough to not just survive, but to guide, illuminate, and love freely. As a professor, mentor, and advocate, her work impacts lives far beyond her own, and even after the hardest climbs, we can still stand tall, stronger, freer, and unshaken. This is what rising looks like. This is empowerment. This is finding your light and honoring and becoming the same for others. This is Dr. Gaylon Alcaraz. Remember, the journey to healing isn't a straight climb, but every step forward matters. So wherever you are on your journey, feel it, face it, trust, that something greater is always waiting on the other side. Thank you for giving yourself the gift of exploring what it really means to survive, to heal, and to rise. Let's take this journey, keep traveling, and rise together.
I'm touching the sky, not my trauma, not my chains. Turn the struggle into gains. Every step I rise again, watch me fly.